Welcome to our third lesson in biology. So for the first one, we focused on the introduction to biology. Under that part, we looked at the branches of biology as well as characteristics of living organisms. We closed the part by looking at the metabolic reactions. In the second lesson, we looked at the cell structure. We started by looking at the simple cell structure, that is for both a plant and animal. Okay, what they have in common and the differences. We further on looked at the detailed structure, that is for both plant and animal cell, and the parts that they have in common. And we ended by looking at the functions of the parts. Okay, so that is what we basically looked at. So I hope you've gone through the two lessons that we've had before this one. Now, in this one, we are going to focus on cell specialization. Like I said, this is the third lesson that we are looking at. So we are going to focus on a cell specialization. Now, cell specialization, what is it? So when you talk of cell specialization, one thing you should know that our cells are made from already existing cells by the process of cell division. And our cells, for them to be suited for their functions, they undergo changes in their chemical composition in the cytoplasm, and also they develop some features, and that is what we call cell specialization. So basically that is what we are going to look at in this one. And we are going to look at various specialized cells, such as the red blood cells, white blood cells, nerve cells. We are going to look at the gut cells. We are going to look at the xylem, the phloem, and many more. Let us get into the main business, that is looking at specialized cells or discussing specialized cells. Okay, like I said, under each we are going to look at where they are found, the functions, and also adaptations. And I'm going to explain as we go on. Okay, so we are going to start by looking at ciliated cells. And now the first thing that we want to know is that where are these ciliated cells found in organisms? Where are they found? So these specialized cells that we are looking at, some of them are from plants and some of them are from animals. Okay, like for example, ciliated cells, these are not found in plants, but these are animal cells. Okay, so where are they found in animals? Okay, so one, they are found in the lining of the respiratory tract. Okay, so in the lining of the respiratory tract, that is where you find them. And also in the oviduct. So if you are asked where they are found, these are the two parts where they are found. Now, what are the functions? So if we were to give the functions, since they are found in the lining of the respiratory tract as well as in the oviduct, when giving the function, you're going to consider giving the function of this, what they do in the respiratory tract or what they do in the oviduct. But it should be clear the function that you are given. You can't just maybe give a function without indicating which part of the organism, or which part of animal, or which part of an organism anyway, where that function is performed. Okay, I guess you get what I'm saying. For example, one of the function of the ciliated cell is to sweep, that is in the respiratory tract. Okay, they sweep out mucus containing dust, particles, and germs. So if we are to write, you need to indicate that in the respiratory tract, they sweep out mucus containing dust, particles, and germs. You cannot just say they sweep out mucus containing dust and germs. Now, where? So that is the question, or that is how you express yourself in terms of answering questions. Then, in the oviduct, they move the ovum toward the uterus. So in the oviduct, they move the ovum toward the uterus. The ovum is the egg, okay? And the uterus is the female reproductive organ. So we are going to discuss that as we reach there, as we do reproduction at some point. At the moment, we can just have it, we can just end here. So now, like I said, you also need to know these cells, how they look, because in an exam you might find the diagrams and you'll be asked to identify and also label some parts. So that is how the ciliated cells. So these are a lot of ciliated cells here, but one just look, maybe let me just try to put up a diagram like this. Okay, let us chase just one. So this is the nucleus. Okay, this is the nucleus, this is the cytoplasm, and also this is the cell membrane. Remember, this is an animal cell, so you should be able to identify it and also to label it. And of course, we have this part here called cilia. Okay, this is what we call cilia. So as you can see from this diagram, these hair-like are called cilia. Then we have the base of this, which is called basal granule, but this part not necessarily of focus at a moment. Then we have nucleus, so we can consider nucleus, cytoplasm, and also goblet cells. So goblet cells, they just produce mucus here. Okay, I think these are the parts that we need to know. So please consider a simple diagram of this particular part, and I guess if you find them in an exam, you wouldn't be able to miss the diagrams. Okay, so now the other part that we can look at now, aside from the functions, we can look at the adaptations. What do you think are the adaptation of these cells? What are the adaptations? So let me just put them here. So one of the adaptations is presence of cytoplasmic hair-like called cilia. So presence of cilia. So presence of cilia, this part here, the hair-like that you are seeing here, this is what you call, or these are what you call cilia. So the presence of cilia is one of the adaptation, and this makes it easy to sweep out mucus containing dust particles and germs, and also to move the ovum toward the uterus. Then it has high concentration of mitochondria. So where we are coming from, we said mitochondria are also called powerhouse, which means that is where energy is produced. So they are site for respiration. They are site for respiration. So which means here they have a lot of mitochondria to provide energy, okay, or to generate energy for the movement of cilia. Okay, these cilia that you are able to see here, they are able to beat or to move, to remove or to perform the functions just mentioned above. So to generate more energy, they need a lot of mitochondria. So I can say high concentration of mitochondria. So high concentration of mitochondria, and also add to this, that is in the cytoplasm. So high concentration of mitochondria in the cytoplasm to generate energy. Cytoplasm. So finish this one, to generate energy for movement of the cilia. Those are the adaptations. So now, some of you might be getting confused. What are adaptations? So adaptation, we're just looking at special features that they have and that enable them to perform the functions that they do. Okay, those are adaptations. So as we go on looking at adaptation, just know that we are looking for the features. Okay, all right. So the second cell that we can look at, we are going to look at the red blood cells. Okay, red blood cells, also called erythrocytes. So erythrocytes or red blood cell, you need to know that they are called erythrocytes. I saw one of the question, we are given erythrocytes, and now some of you might get confused. What are erythrocytes? So we are just talking of red blood cells. Like I said, the function, or before then, where are they found? So the red blood cells are found in blood, and you need to know that blood is a liquid tissue. Okay, tissue contain cells that perform same function. Okay, what are the function of red blood cells? So transport oxygen and small amount of what? Carbon dioxide. So the function of red blood cell is just transport oxygen, okay, to all parts of the body. So transport oxygen and small amount of carbon dioxide. That is how you can write this one. I hope you not forget this. All right, so these are some of the pictures of red blood cells. The parts, it has cytoplasm, it has hemoglobin, but without nucleus, as we are going to look at the adaptation. So familiarize yourself with the red blood cells. So they do come in an exam just like this. It can be presented just like this. You should be able to identify that these are red blood cells. That is very important. Let us now look at their adaptation. Now, like I said, the adaptations, we are looking at the features that they have that enable them to perform their functions. What are the functions? Or what is the function of red blood cells? It has to transport what? Transport oxygen. Now, what features do red blood cells have that enable them to transport oxygen? One, that is on adaptation. They are biconcave in shape. That is to increase the surface area for diffusion of oxygen. As you can see, they are biconcave or disc-like. Okay, disc-like. Then presence of hemoglobin. So hemoglobin is a pigment that has high affinity for oxygen. So oxygen bind to hemoglobin to form oxyhemoglobin, and it is transported in that way. It binds temporarily, okay, at some point dissociate. That is something that we might not go into detail, but at the moment you need to know that one of the adaptations is that it has hemoglobin, okay, which has high affinity for oxygen. High affinity, it means it attracts oxygen, or it binds, oxygen binds easily to hemoglobin. Then absence of the nucleus. So where there's supposed to be a nucleus, there is no nucleus, and that room is created for it increased the surface area for the absorption of oxygen. So lack of or absence of nucleus is one of the adaptation. Okay, I hope given the question you wouldn't miss this part, you understand it well. Okay, so if you have a question, you should be able to drop it so that we can discuss that one. Otherwise, we can proceed to the next one, which are white blood cells. So white blood cells are specialized cells. Where are they found? Also found in blood. They make up the solid part of blood. What are the functions of white blood cells? So generally, white blood cells defend the body against infection. So the white blood cells defend the body against infection. Now, in this one, for the sake of our learning, we are going to look at two examples of white blood cells. And we are going to look at phagocytes and lymphocytes. Have you gotten that? White blood cells defend the body against infection. For the sake of our learning, we are going to look at two types of white blood cells. That is phagocytes and lymphocytes. We are going to start by looking at phagocytes. Now, they are both white blood cells. The only difference is in the way they defend the body against infection. They do it differently. And of course, in their structure also they differ. So phagocyte, what should come to your mind when you hear of phagocyte? So what should come to your mind? You should think of engulfing. Okay? Engulfing. Engulfing, more like eating. Okay? So now, phagocytes defend the body against infection by engulfing and digesting germs. So engulfing and digesting germs. We are going to see the diagrams illustrating this. So you need to know that phagocytes defend the body against infection by engulfing and digesting germs. Now the question is this part important? Yes, it is. You are going to find the question in an exam, or the question is there in the past papers where you are given the phagocyte. And of course, you should be able to look at that, what the question is asking you to do. Otherwise, this part, just emphasizing, is very important. What are the adaptation? So adaptation, what are the special features that these phagocytes have that enable them to engulf, okay, and digest these germs? So they have robbed nucleus. So the difference between them is that the phagocyte have robbed nucleus, and this makes engulfing of bacteria or germs easy. So adaptation, they have robbed nucleus. We are going to look at the diagram, don't worry. So robbed nucleus, which makes the engulfing of germs easy. Also amoeboid movement, they move like amoeba. Okay. Okay, so for them to move toward germs, and also in addition to that, they have no fixed shape, which means the shape changes. Okay, and this makes it easy for them to engulf foreign materials or foreign agent. So these are the three adaptations that we can look at. I guess there's no problem up to this point. So we can proceed to the diagrams and the way they do it. So what you are able to see here is the nucleus. So the nucleus is like this. It's robed. This is what we call robed nucleus. So you see the way they are. So they are irregular in shape. Now this part, they are engulfing, more like eating. These are germs. So they form this vesicle now. When they come, this encloses here, then the foreign material are inside. Then the nucleus digests them. Okay, so that is how the whole process occurs. Okay, so you should be able to identify these. Okay, the other type that we can look at are called lymphocytes. Now, lymphocytes, still white blood cells, but defend the body, or these defend the body against infection by producing antibodies and antitoxins. So these engulf, that is phagocyte engulf, but lymphocyte defend the body against infection by producing antibodies and antitoxins. Now, what are the adaptations? So presence of a large nucleus and thin cytoplasm. So for the lymphocyte is like this. Let's say this is the lymphocyte. Then now inside they have a large nucleus, almost filling the whole cell. So now this large nucleus and also thin cytoplasm. Look at the space for cytoplasm is small. Okay, so presence of large nucleus and thin cytoplasm. And in this one, in the nucleus, they produce antibodies. You know that ant against. So ant against. So against germs, against foreign materials. Then thin cytoplasm. So this is the adaptation of the lymphocyte. Now, why is it so? Why do they have what are here we are saying presence of I mean on the adaptation we're saying defend the body against infection. Let us just go a bit back. Against infection by producing antibodies and antitoxins. What are antibodies? What are antibodies? Okay, what are antibodies? So antibodies are just protein that destroys germs or foreign bodies. Okay, so are just proteins, or antibodies are just proteins that destroys germs or foreign bodies. Whereas antitoxins, we are looking at the proteins that neutralize the poison. So antitoxins and poison, you know that something that is toxic or something that is toxic is poisonous. So anti-poisonous, okay, anti-poisonous, which means they neutralize the poison. So I guess I've just clarified something there. Okay, and I guess up to this point we are good to proceed to the next one. So the fourth one that we are looking at nerve cells, and this one is common, and most of us, we are aware of this. Whether you've not been to a biology class, you've heard of people expressing themselves, you are stepping on my nerves or something like that. So what are nerve cells? If you look at biology, what are nerve cells? Okay, what are the function of these nerve cells? Okay, so nerve cells, the function is just to conduct electric impulse from one part of the body to another. And by the way, these are also called neurons. So nerve cells are also called neurons. And the function is just to conduct electric impulse from one part of the body to another. Now, we are going to look at 3 types of nerve cells or neurons. Okay, what are the 3 types? Before we look at adaptations, what are the 3 types? So we have 1, which is the sensory neuron. And maybe you might be wondering, how am I able to identify them, that these are sensory neuron? How am I able to identify it? So this one has the cell body on the side. Look at this. It's coming from here. Then the body cell is from the side. Then also you have the receptor. So the sensory neuron is the one that detect stimuli, okay, and transmit to the central nervous system, as you can see here. Okay, so that is why I'm able to identify it as a sensory neuron. Then we have this one, which is the relay neuron or interneuron. So this one is the one that is found in between the sensory and the motor neuron, as we are going to see as the impulse moves. And this one does not have the myelin sheath. Okay, as you can see, there's only the axon. Most importantly, also, you are going to look at nervous system at some point, so you need to know the parts of the neuron or the the nerve cell. So as you can see, we have the dendrion, we have the axon, we have the cell body, the receptor. But what is important is the axon. Look at this. The axon is this inside part. Now, this one is closed or is covered with this, what you call myelin sheath. But for this, relay neuron does not have. So hence I'm able to identify it. And of course, the cell body is at the end there. Okay. So this is the relay neuron. But at the moment, you just need to identify them. The details about these will come under nervous system. This one is called the motor neuron. Okay, so this one is called the motor neuron, and of course, because they are attached to the muscles or effectors. Okay, as you can see, these are muscles, and it has the myelin sheath, but the cell body is at the end. Like I said, we are not going to go into detail, but instead just identifying or just some part that helps us to identify these. All right, so what are the adaptations? What are the adaptations? What features do they have that enable them to conduct electric impulse from one part to another? So one, presence of dendrites that collect impulse from the parts of the body to another. So these are what we call dendrites. So this spike like at the end are what we call dendrites. So that is to collect as much impulse as possible from one part to another. Then presence of axon. So the axon is just the inside part here along which the impulse travels. So presence of axon which carry impulse from one part, from one end of the neuron to another. Then presence of synaptic cleft or synaptic knob that forms a link between the neurons. So at the end, if you are to look at these there are some knobs. Okay, so these are what we call synaptic knob. So these they connect with another neuron. As we said, there are 3 of them. Then presence of node of Ranvier that makes the impulse move faster. Node of Ranvier are just spaces between the myelin sheath. Okay, these spaces. So if this is the myelin sheath, this is the axon, myelin sheath, another myelin sheath. The space between is what we call node of Ranvier. So these are some of the adaptations that they have. So for the muscle cells, that is what you need. For the nerve cells, that is what you need to do, what you need to know, please. So this is very important. You need to know it for the sake of exams, and also as you prepare for the future. For those who want to do biology, you are going to come across this part even at an advanced level. This one can serve as the background. You are laying a foundation for building where you are going. Okay. Let us look at muscle cells. So the fifth one that we are looking at muscle cells. As always, what are the functions? So muscle cells contract to produce movement. So the function, we can say contraction to produce movement. But not only this, we should be able to look at other functions of the muscles or muscle cells. What do you think are the functions? So here we have contraction to produce movement. Now, if they contract to produce movement, what are the adaptations? What features do they have that enable them to contract and produce movement? So one of them is abundance of mitochondria. You know that everywhere you hear of mitochondria, just think of energy. So abundance of mitochondria to release energy for contraction. That is the part. Then presence of actin and myosin. Presence of actin and myosin in the cytoplasm, which carry out contraction. So at some point, if you're going to do biochemistry, this part is detailed, where you learn about the muscle contraction, and all these you're going to understand that actin and myosin plays an important role when it comes to the contraction of muscles. At the moment, we just say presence of actin and myosin, filaments in the cytoplasm which carry out contraction. All right, so let us look at now the muscles. There are 3 types of muscles that we are going to look at here, just looking at them. So 3 types of muscles, what are they? So we have what we call smooth muscles, we have what we call skeletal muscles, we have what we call cardiac muscles. So types of muscles, we have cardiac muscles, skeletal muscles, and smooth muscles. And for now, we just look at maybe where are they found. Okay, we're not going to go into detail how or what differentiate them, why they are called cardiac muscles, why they are called skeletal muscles, why they are called smooth muscles. That is biochemistry. So for the sake of our learning, we just mention them. But if you want to go into detail, please be able to research on this one. That is quite an interesting part of biology. So cardiac muscles, they are found on the heart. Okay, so the heart is made up of cardiac muscles. Then skeletal muscles are found joining the skeletal system. Then smooth muscles, they are found mostly in the lining of the intestines and also other internal organs. Okay, so this is where you find smooth muscles. So 3 types of muscles, we have cardiac muscles, skeletal muscles, and smooth muscles. And that is basically what we can look at. I hope we have no problem up to this point. And if you have a problem, be able to ask a question in the comment section. Otherwise, we can proceed and look at the 6th one. And we are going to look at, in this case, the root hair cell. So the arrangement here, we've started with animal cells, and now we are transitioning to plant cells. And the first one that we can look at under this one are the root hair cell, or is the root hair cell. Now, root hair cell, as the name suggests, where is it found? Root hair cells are normally found at the end of the root, tips of the root. That is where you find the root hair cell. And this is what you're able to see. Now, some of you mistaken this one with the sperm cell. Get to look at them carefully and you're going to see the difference. This is the root hair cell. And what are the parts? We have the cytoplasm, which is this part. And we have the mitochondria. These are not chloroplasts, so there are no chloroplasts in root hair cell, as these are found at the end of the root and no photosynthesis occurs there. So mitochondria, we have the nucleus, we have the vacuole. These are some of the parts of the root hair cell. What are the functions? So the function of the root hair cell is absorption of water and mineral salts. Absorption of water and mineral salts. So you should be very careful when it comes to root hair cell, their functions, and also comparing to the xylem. Don't swap the two, as we are going to see. So absorption of water and mineral salts, and I guess there's no problem up to this point. Then anchor the plant into the ground. So another function, and this one is the general function of the roots, that is anchorage. So anchor the plant into the ground. So that is another function of the root hair cell. But if you are to give the function, prioritize this one, absorption of water and mineral salts. If you are given 2, that is when you can come anchor the plants into the ground. And I guess that one is clear. What are the adaptations? What features does the root hair cell have that enable it to perform the function or the functions that we've just mentioned? What are the features that they have? One, it has an elongation, outgrowth, which increase the surface area for the diffusion of during absorption. Now, some of you might know the whole of this one is called elongated outgrowth, and this is not the tail. So never should you refer to this one as a tail. It is called an elongated outgrowth. So it has an elongated outgrowth, and simply to increase the surface area for the diffusion of water and mineral salts. Then what else? Absence of chloroplast. So this one, please, supposed to be absence of chloroplasts, and this creates more room for absorption. So there are no chloroplasts in root hair cell, like I said. Then high concentration of mitochondria. Every time you hear of mitochondria, just think of energy. So water enter the root hair cell by diffusion, but mineral salts by active transport. So there is need for energy. You know, active transport has to do with going against the concentration gradient, and energy is involved. So energy is needed, and hence it has a lot of mitochondria. Then they have numerous. They are numerous in number rather. So these root hair cells, they are a lot in number, and that is so that they can absorb more water. Just imagine, this one is absorbing here, the other one, the other one, the other one. So a lot of them in number to increase the surface area for the absorption. That is another adaptation. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4. Out of 4, you can't miss to remember any of these. So please make sure that you know these parts and are very important. Okay, the next one that we can discuss is the xylem. So number 7, we are looking at xylem. Xylem is a specialized cell, or xylem vessels are specialized cells. What are the functions? Conduction of water and mineral salts. Look at this. Root hair cell, we said absorption. So it just absorbs, then the water moves along the xylem to the end part of the plant, that is the leaves. But conduction, that is conduction. So conduction of water and mineral salts, which means water move along the xylem up to the end where they are going. In short, transports water and mineral salts. So it moves along the xylem. So it should be able to know these. Then provide mechanical support to the plant. As you know, the xylem, the wall of the xylem are lignified, or they are made up of lignin, which is the hard material, and that gives the strength in short, it provides support to the plant. Let us keep it that way. So provide support, that is mechanical support to the plant. That is part of the xylem. What are the adaptation? So end walls of the neighboring cells are broken to form the continuous tube. So xylem are made up of dead cells. Okay, so where the cells are dead, there's a continuous channel of water movement. The protoplasm are absent, leaving the halo in the middle of the cell. It's just the same as saying xylems are made up of dead cells, and this halo that remains, that is where water moves. So 2 adaptations of the xylem so far. End walls of the neighboring cells are broken to form the continuous tubes. Protoplasm is absent, leaving the halo space in the middle of the cells. And also the last one, we are saying walls are lignified to provide support, mechanical support rather. So like I said already, lignin is just the hard material that makes up the xylem, and in this case it provides mechanical support to the plant, or it makes the plant, or it makes the plant firm. Then the structure of the xylem that we can look at. So I've seen a question where you are given the structure of the xylem. So this is basically, I hope this you are able to see it clearly, but please, you should be able to find the clear diagram even as you study. So this one is the one that we are going to use to look at the xylem. As you can see, the parts, we have the pit, the vessel elements, the tracheids, the xylem cells, and we have the xylem parenchyma cell, So what is important here is you to master or to be able to identify the xylem if it appear in an exam. The questions that you'll be asked this time around, expect even question to be more trickier as we are transitioning from to the new curriculum. So you should be able to expect some technical or some questions that are a bit tricky. Just be prepared. Okay, so now we can move to the next one, which is the xylem, the phloem. We can move to the phloem. Okay, so the phloem, where you talk of the xylem, also the phloem, you cannot talk of the xylem without mentioning the phloem, because these are normally, or these make up what we call the vascular bundle. Okay, xylem and phloem make up what we call the vascular bundle. So now I forgot to mention where the xylem is found and where the xylem is found. So you can find the xylem in the roots of the plant, the stem, and also the leaves. Equally, the phloem, you find it in the root, the stem, and the leaves. Okay, that is another part that I forgot to mention, because sometimes they will ask you which organ of the plant is the part or the specialized cell found. What are the functions of the phloem? So the function of the phloem is to transport manufactured food from one part of the plant to another. Transport manufactured food from one part of the plant to another. Just stay up to the end. We are going to see also we are going to compare the xylem versus the phloem, because I've seen a question which came where they combined the xylem and the phloem. So, and identify the xylem and the phloem. You're asked to identify. So I'm going to put up that diagram which will help us to answer that particular question. All right, so you know the function. That is transportation, or transporting manufactured food from one part of the plant to another. What are the adaptation? So for this one, end walls of the neighboring cell are perforated to form sieve plates. So perforated, which means they have some holes. That is what it means, perforated. Protoplasm are partly lost, leaving behind some cytoplasmic strand. So here they are partly lost, so leaving some cytoplasmic strand, and those are what we call sieve tube. Then presence of companion cell. I've seen one of the questions that asks you to identify the cell, or what makes you to identify that this is the xylem, this is the phloem. One of the noticeable part is the companion cell, and the companion cell provide energy to the cell. Okay, that is something that you should understand. So let us have a look at a typical example of a phloem. So this one is the one that we are going to look at, the phloem. So in this one, I'll put some lines here, just like this. These are the ones that I'm going to call cytoplasmic strand. Okay, we said presence of cytoplasmic strands. And these are what we call sieve tubes. Okay, so these are what we call sieve tubes. Then these are perforated part. So we are looking at this xylem, this phloem connecting to another phloem here. So they have openings. Even going to another phloem, they have some opening to create the continuous flow of the material. Okay, so these are what we call sieve plate. This is a sieve plate. That is a sieve plate. So when you find the diagram pointing at that part, just know that that is a sieve plate. Okay, then we are looking at sieve pore. This opening is called the sieve pore, and the function is mainly to allow the material to pass to another cell. Okay, then we have the sieve tube, which is the route across along which the material passes. So sieve tube, we are just looking at the tube along which the material or the manufactured food passes. Then we have the whole of this as a companion cell. So the companion cell is made up of dense cytoplasm, and inside here we have the nucleus. So this is the nucleus and this is the dense cytoplasm. And I guess if you find such a question, you should be able to identify these parts and also give the function. And I guess at this point there's no one with a problem. We can proceed to the other part. All right, so that is all we can talk of the xylem, on the phloem. Let us look at now the part that I talked of, where we are going to look at the xylem versus the phloem. So I've seen a question on this particular part. So now, if you have this diagram, one of the papers, you're going to find, I think the diagram is closer to this, though not exactly, but I can explain something. So now, look at this. Which one is the xylem? And this is labeled, this is xylem. Now, if I were to look at it carefully, for the xylem, what I'm mainly focused on, what I'm mainly interested in are the direction of arrows. So here you can see that in the xylem, the materials move only from the ground up to the end part of the plant. So in xylem, water moves from the ground up to the top part of the plant, that is the leaves. You've never heard of water moving from the leaves to the ground. So there's only one way, it's a one-way route. But for the phloem, the material move down and up, depending with the part of the plant where they are needed. I guess you've gotten that. So where you find the arrows going down, just know that those are phloem. Where they are going up, just know that they're xylem. And what separates the two is what we call the cambium. Okay, the cambium. So also you should be able to know what is the function of the cambium, just to give you a clue of the question that you are going to find. So be aware of that. Okay, let us look at the guard cells. So for the guard cells, as the name suggests, which means they guard something. Okay, now what are the functions, or where are they found? So guard cells are found at the bottom part of the leaf. If you have the leaf on top, we have most of the leaves on top, they are shiny. Then at the back here, they are rough. That is where you find the high concentration of the guard cells. And these are just openings now. The guard cells form what we call the stomata, which are just opening that allows water to leave, and also carbon dioxide to enter and oxygen to diffuse out. Okay, so function is control the opening and the closing of the stomata. Although this process of opening and closing of the stomata is quite complex, we are going to go the simple way. So control the opening and the closing of the stomata. Now, what are the adaptation? These occur in pairs. Let me just go and look at the diagrams. So the adaptation of the guard cell is that they occur in pairs. So this is the guard cell, and also this is a guard cell. They cannot occur separately. So they occur in pairs. And now, so we are saying they occur in pairs, and each cell has the semicircular shape when turgid and straight when plasmolized. So when they gain a lot of water, they become turgid or they swell. As a result, they cause the opening here. Okay, they cause this opening. This opening is where carbon dioxide can go in and oxygen comes out. At the same time, also water can be lost. That is what we call transpiration. But when they are flaccid, or when the plant has lost water, they become in short, the opening here closes. Okay, as a result, there's no loss of water, and also no carbon dioxide. In short, the entry of carbon dioxide, the process of photosynthesis becomes slow, in other words. Okay, so that is one of the adaptation. Then their cell wall are thicker around the stoma than elsewhere. So here the cells are thicker, as you can see here around the stoma. This is what we call the stoma. The opening is what we call the stoma. So around here they are thicker, okay, thicker, so that when they become turgid, they're able to open. Okay, so that is one of the adaptations of the guard cell, and I guess you are able to see. In addition to that, they also have some chloroplasts, since they are found in the leaves. Okay, so photosynthesis can also take place in these cells. What I want you to know is what are their parts. So look at their parts and make sure that you are not able to miss the diagram in the case you are given such a question. Okay. Then now let us look at the parasite cell, and this is the last one that we are going to look at, parasite cell. So when you talk of parasite cell, we are just looking at a typical plant cell. Okay, the typical plant cell that we looked at with the vacuole, with the nucleus, the cytoplasm, the chloroplast, and all that. That is simply what we are looking at. Okay, so what are the functions of the parasite cells? So the function of the parasite cell is to carry out the process of photosynthesis. How do they carry out the process, or how possible that they carry out the process of photosynthesis? So carry out the process of photosynthesis, that is the functions. Adaptations, they have high concentration of chloroplast, so they have a lot of chloroplast. Okay, so a lot of chloroplast to trap the light energy needed for photosynthesis. Then their cells are longer vertically, so the cells are longer vertically than horizontally, and this allows chloroplast to migrate up or downward as the light intensity changes, so that they are not damaged by excessive light. That is the reason why they are longer vertically than horizontally. So these are some of the adaptations of the parasite cells. I guess up to this point you've enjoyed the lesson, and of course you followed through. Okay, we've come to the end of the lesson, but before I let you go, just have a look at the parasite cell. That is how it looks like. Okay, so now if you want to join us for online lessons or physical lessons, okay, that is if you enjoy the lesson, you've enjoyed our lesson, or you enjoy our lessons, because there are a lot of lessons on this platform. So if you enjoy our lessons, we have good news for you, that we are enrolling for 2025 GCE lessons. Okay, so if you are interested to join us, we are found in Lusaka, that is Kawata area, just near Kawata Primary School along 80th Street. So if you are interested to register, okay, if you are interested to register and be part of the people that we are preparing for distinctions, because for us we aim for nothing but distinctions. So you can come through. We have grade 8 to 9 and externals. The subject we have English, mathematics, integrated science, social studies, business studies, computer studies, and religious education. But if you are coming for grade 10 to 12 or second, that is senior secondary, we have mathematics, English, mathematics, additional mathematics, biology, chemistry, physics. I should have included here physics, civic education, religious education, and please, physics and chemistry, if you are taking pures, is taught as science also as the pure. In addition to that, those that are doing IGCSE Cambridge and also GCSE, we also have the we are also enrolling for the 2025 exams, that is lessons. So if you are interested to join us, you can just contact the number 0976402563. This is the part where we are found. So if you are coming through, we can get in touch. And don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel. Make sure that you invite a lot of your friends to this platform. Let us make it big. And of course, that is a motivation for us to keep going. Otherwise, see you in the next one.